Okay, thank you for attending this meeting. I'm Zakhar Popovych. Yes, I'm the member of Left Opposition Organization, which was founded 4 years ago. The name is because of the lack of left opposition in Ukraine. Most of oppositional forces in Ukraine were right parties, far right, sometimes liberal, very frequently Nazi-minded people. Very few of oppositional organizations declared themselves left. It was why we choose this name. It is we lost for 4 years now, yes, and we didn't want to change name now. But the opposition in power changed the places. And we participated in Maidan protests. Maidan was definitely not a left-wing event, but it was triggered by social and economical situation in Ukraine. So, the first point I want to address is about that. Who is responsible for this crisis? Yes, and very many people blame United States imperialism, Russian imperialism, European Union, German imperialism, and it's also true. It's all true. But what we see in Ukraine, we see our local oligarchs. Yes, our local oligarchic rule, which is mainly responsible for the situation, because if we would have no oligarchs, we couldn't have such a crisis inside Ukraine. And our oligarchs succeeded to build the system, the economical system, economical and political system, where they pay virtually no taxes. All politics in Ukraine, absolutely all political parties, are oligarch parties paid by some fraction of oligarchy, and they voted for the laws to build a system where they can pay zero profit tax. All big enterprises in Ukraine can show zero profit in Ukraine and show all the profits in some offshore jurisdictions in Cyprus or maybe United Kingdom or somewhere else, but not in Ukraine. And effectively, this means that Ukrainian state budget has no money. Yes, you have no money for some social programs and so on and so on. And effectively, the consequence, the result was that we have the lowest level of payment of wages in Europe. Probably in Moldova you can the comparable level, but the wages in Ukraine was for many years lower than in Russia, lower than in Romania, lower than in Poland, for example. And this was actually the main reason for crisis. For last 2 years, oligarchs continually make discussions about that. Well, we should start paying taxes, but no of oligarchs agreed to be first to pay, and they couldn't make a decision. So they couldn't pass this law, actually, law about the transfer pricing. Yes, that should remove this possibility to pay all tax outside the country. And for 2 years they are just circulating this law, and after the joke is that after this revolution they just once more postpone it for half a year. Like this. And I said that Maidan was not a left event. Yes, it was dominated by right-wing slogans, by this right opposition, liberal opposition parties. But the perception of social justice, of left ideas, was very good on Maidan, actually. Well, it was no surprise that people distrusts all, distrusts government, distrusts president, distrusts all the oppositional parties. The level of support, yes, the level of trust in president or government was one-digit level before the revolution for many months. And well, it's unique in some way, because in some stable country you have some level of support of government institutions of double-digit numbers, yes, not just 0, 1. Also the trust in oppositional leaders was very low on Maidan. And what is surprise for me is that when we propose the agenda of, we call it, of social change or social revolution, and distributed the leaflets of this content, the perception was very good. Yes, the main slogans, our slogans, was demand to open all books. Yes, publish online all accountants' information about all transactions of all government institutions and big monopolies. And other was the restriction of political rights of bourgeoisie section. We call it the social lustration. So we said that all wealthy people, all people who earn more than $1 million a year, should be removed from all position of parliament, in parliament, in government institutions, and so on. We think it would be too radical but it was okay for many people on Maidan. Yes, they say, yes, you are right. And we also propose a workers' control on all enterprises. And we were surprised with the good perception. Yes, some people, some older people from Western Ukraine, people who consider themselves as anti-communist, took our leaflets and say, wow, you should see this, our Ukrainian document, which pose all points are right. And this man just reads this document in front of the big meeting. We were not confident in ourselves to do it. We just trying to explain something. But these people perceived our leaflet very good. But at the same time, they feel themselves like anti-communist, because they associate the communist with Stalinism, with Stalin's bureaucracy, with some kind of oppression of Ukrainian language, which was partly in Soviet Union sometimes. And well, so yes, you can imagine that we tried to translate Trotsky's transitional program and Lenin's April thesis to Ukrainian and adapt it to the situation, and this kind of leaflets were perceived very well. But most of people who perceived these leaflets think they are anti-communist, and this is the nature of the movement. Yes. I try to say a few words about the composition, a social composition of Maidan. Yes. And it was very different, of course, in different regions of Ukraine. And I can hardly say that, well, some Maidan movement was more white collar, and anti-Maidan movement was more workers. It was different from different regions. In some industrial cities of Ukraine, like Kryvyi Rih, you can see many workers participated in Maidan movement. And in some Kharkov region, yes, many workers participated in an anti-Maidan movement, for example. But my general observation, and I was on Maidan during all these protests. I virtually every day visited the square, and I've been in Kryvyi Rih, in Donetsk, in Kharkov, in Sloviansk, Kramatorsk. The difference between Maidan in Kiev and then anti-Maidan in Donetsk was very, very huge. It looks like the Maidan movement was much more grassroots one and much more diverse than Donetsk one, for example. There were many different stages, yes, many different rooms and places where people were discussing on Maidan. There was a main stage, yes, there was an open university stage 100 meters from there. There were the big hall, big room in former Lenin Museum, Ukrainian house, the name of this building. And on the first floor, the Students' Assembly organized meetings, presentations. We present our magazine Spilne, the comments on these events. And there were some free microphone stage as one, and some hundreds of people near the stage every moment. There were some rooms in the captured, occupied buildings. There were a room in the Union of Journalists building. And at the same time, in all these places, there were some different discussions. And there were many different leaflets distributed with different points of view, different newspapers, and very different from Donetsk anti-Maidan movement. We tried to distribute our leaflet about the social change in Donetsk. We made a special edition in Russian language to be better accepted there. But we were not allowed to. Every leaflet that you could distribute in Donetsk, anti-Maidan, you should agree it with some commander. And some commander read our leaflet, said, well, generally it's okay, but you have a point about the police violence and for cutting the spendings on police, and this is unacceptable on anti-Maidan. We should support Berkut, we should support the riot police and so on. So we are not allowed because of this point. The different was in Kharkov probably. In Kharkov, different leaflets were allowed, and some leftist groups participated in anti-Maidan also. Some Borodba guys tried to. And the presence of far-right. The presence of far-right on Maidan in Kiev was very significant, it's true. I don't think that we can say that they control the whole movement and so on. They tried to push out any left activities, but they don't succeed to. I was on Maidan with my red flag, and it was okay for some moments. For some moments they forced me to go away, but then I have new events on Maidan and so on. But the presence of far-right on the anti-Maidan movement is also very significant. Very many Russian nationalists, Russian monarchists, some very, very strange people are very active on anti-Maidan also. Well, for example, you can probably, the last leaders, yes, the appointed government of the Donetsk People's Republic. It's Russian citizens of some monarchist, Mr. Girkin, yes, a conscious monarchist from 1991, as he declared himself. This Babai, yes, the military commander. The ministers are some also people from Moscow who are some political experts and so on and so on. Many of them are members of radical neo-Nazi organizations in Russia. Some of these organizations are actually prohibited in Russia, like Russian National Unity. Gubayev was a member of Russian National Unity and so on. Yes. So I have some time. Yes. So the tragedy is that all this movement, yes, triggered by this social and economical discontent, is led mostly by right-wingers from both sides, and the events in Odessa showed it very convincing. Yes, that these pro-Russian guys, this pro-Russian Druzhina, is very nationalistically minded people. Yes, with some Russian neo-Nazi background, and the people who organized the beating and who were involved in this killing in Odessa from the side of the Maidan, yes, pro-Ukrainian forces, were also of some background of Ukrainian neo-Nazis. And the tragedy is that in Odessa, actually the leftists who 1 year ago, these people participated in some joint rallies, joint events in order to against the new labor code, which were cutting the rights of workers, the labor rights. And in some other events for the freedom of public demonstrations and public expressions. Now these leftists, some of them are in this Odessa Druzhina under command of Russian right-wingers, and some of them are in some pro-Ukrainian units and pro-Ukrainian forces who are also under influence, I say, of neo-Nazis group of Ukraine. And these guys are killing each other. And for example, the Borotьба member, yes, the programmer of 27-year-old programmer, the man of Marxist views, yes, he said, yes. He was a member of this paramilitary pro-Russian unit, and he was killed in this house of unions. And another guy, younger guy from Odessa Antifa movement, yes, it's red and anarchist skinheads. He was in pro-Ukrainian demonstration, and he was shot in the downtown Odessa at the same day. So this is a tragedy, that most of the left find themselves captured under command of some forces which are definitely not in favor of working class struggle, that have some agenda of nationalism, and this agenda, more violence, and more of this agenda is pushed, and more hysteria in society from the both sides. Some my Facebook friends, yes, just calling to kill each other in Facebook, yes, because of you are on the different sides of this situation. And well, people in Facebook always say more than they did, but we have a real violence in some places on Ukraine, and it's real killings and so on. And the problem is that actually, and it is accepted from the, I spoke to people of the left who participated in anti-Maidan movement and the Maidan movement, and all agree that organized workers never participated much in Maidan and anti-Maidan. Organized workers remain out of this for a long time. And yes, it was the period when, for example, the independent unions of Kryvyi Rih, yes, it's a big miners city, 1 million citizens strong, and most of this million people are actually miners, iron ore miners and workers of metallurgy steel works. And they participated in Maidan partly. Maidan was launched in this city by also some small business merchants, some petty bourgeois elements, but the independent unions joined it, and when it was some attempts to attack it by paid paramilitary units organized by Akhmetov and other oligarchs, the workers organized their own self-defense units, and they prevent any violence in Kryvyi Rih. So the Maidan in Kryvyi Rih was very peaceful, because everybody knows that there are many workers who are organized who will allow no violence here. And from the other hand, some miners' unions in the very western part of Ukraine, in Chervonograd, for example. Chervonograd is the miners' city. Chervonograd, you can translate the name as a red city. Chervony, it's red. But it's the very, very west of the Lvov Oblast, 30 kilometers from the Polish border. And trade unions organized some political discussions there and participated in the movement to nationalize the local power plant. This workers was probably more pro-Maidan minded, but they act quite independently. And the last big event was in Lugansk region. It's the very east of Ukraine. The very east, near the Russian border. This 40 kilometers from Russian border, there is a city of Krasnodon. Yes, Red Dawn in Russian. Krasnodon. And there was effectively the general strike. The general strike, well, miners of all mines stopped the work for 3 days approximately, and effectively took this city under their control for this time. And there was also no violence there. And workers did not agree to join anti-Maidan protests and Lugansk People Republic. But they don't agree to go to the Lugansk and declare the support for the new anti-Maidan pro-Russian forces of Lugansk People's Republic. But they don't want to show any kind of support for pro-Maidan movement also. Some leaders of these independent miners' unions are people that are close to the leaders of Tymoshenko party. And they tried to convince them to declare support to Tymoshenko, but miners didn't want to do this. They tried to make their own independent movement. And this independent movement was originated from below. It was a grassroots totally. These independent unions were not the initiators of this movement. They joined the strike committee, which effectively controls the city for several days. And the main demands was the rise up in salary, in wages, yes, because of that situation, is spoken that all over the Ukraine, because of devaluation of hryvnia, the real wages fall, the real income of people fall. And in this case of Lugansk, because of the fall in the volume of production, miners effectively received the payment for April, which was even less in hryvnia. They received less hryvnias, so they were very angry with the situation, because it was not only the fall in real wage, but in effective the number of hryvnias they received. And the last point I probably want to, yes, it's 5 minutes and I will finish. The last is about the Kryvyi Rih, yes, and on 11th of May, the miners in Kryvyi Rih organized the big demonstration, big march. You probably can read the appeal, some information was published about this. I want to stress just some small points. That for many years in Kryvyi Rih, we have no independent workers' rallies, workers' marches. There were big independent union in Kryvyi Rih, but even on 1st of May, their actions were very small. Sometimes they participated in some political events and so on and so on. But this is the first time for many years when really it was solely only miners, only their own flags and their own speakers and so on. And this is a very interesting new development, because it looks like they feel themselves as really the force that can change the situation, that can control the situation in the city. They organize their self-defense units, and they demand from the government, from the governor of Dnepropetrovsk Oblast, Mr. Kolomoisky, who is one of the major Ukrainian oligarchs, to recognize their self-defense units. And they demand their increase of salary. And they feel themselves like they are strong enough to protect their city from any kind of violence, from any neo-Nazis, from right or from pro-Russian side, from pro-Ukrainian side. And one interesting episode. Some of these miners are from the Lenin mine named by Lenin. And they have a Lenin monument not far from this mine. They are not Leninists in any kind of political understanding, but they feel that this is a part of their history. And when some right-wingers in Kryvyi Rih came to this monument trying to destroy it, workers just not allowed them to do this, because we are from this district. It's Lenin district, around Lenin mine. It's our grandfathers and our fathers were Leninists in sense of living in this Lenin district, and they preserved it. But of course, they are not kind of left-wingers. The kind of consciousness they have now is kind of workers' separatism. They didn't want to join any camp, and they want to build their own self-defense and have their own salary to be raised. But they feel like this agenda could unite Ukraine. They say we will try to make connections with miners in Lugansk, in Krasnodar, in Donetsk Oblast. Because under this agenda of social justice and workers' self-defense, we think we can avoid the civil war in Ukraine. Of course, I don't know if they succeed to do this, because, well, situation is escalating, and there are forces from both sides who wanted more killings and more escalation. But the support of such workers' initiatives could be very significant for avoiding the escalation of war. That's because I'm appealing to you to join these campaigns of solidarity with Ukrainian mine workers in Kryvyi Rih, to answer to this call for solidarity from Comrade Samoylov, who is the leader of Kryvyi Rih Independent Union of Miners, Comrade Bondar, who is the leader of this organization of iron ore miners on Sukha Balka mines, which is owned by Evras PLC, which is Abramovich-owned holding. And I think that it could be very significant to support their struggle. And you should understand that support declared somewhere in the West, in the Europe, is very significant for Ukrainian media. When Ukrainian media translate and publish some information about the support for workers in Europe, it is significant for Ukrainian society as a whole. It makes the success of this local workers' initiative more probable, and that's all. Thank you. Sorry for